They set Boba Fett up from the Clone Wars all the way into the Mandalorian as this badass, ruthless bounty hunter that will disintegrate people to collect his bounty and just bring back the ashes of that person and be like, there's your proof. And then they
Yep.
set him up as this guy that was willing to shoot Grogu to get back his armor.
Yep.
And then he's a borderline pacifist. What? Where was this plot twist?
Obviously, we should have just read between the lines.
Hello and welcome back to the Helpware Nerds podcast. As you probably guessed by the thumbnail, we're going to talk about Book of Boba Fett and other Disney projects relating to Star Wars, but mainly focusing on the Book of Boba Fett. And before I forget to say it, happy Star Wars Day, everybody. And may the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you.
So, the main idea behind this is that the Book of Boba Fett had a lot of promise. I think it was set up really, really well in The Mandalorian Season 2. When Boba Fett first showed up and he helped Din find Grogu and get his armor back and all that stuff. I think they set up Book of Boba Fett really well. I don't think the show paid it off.
Yeah.
Before we get into all that, though, for those of you that don't know who Boba Fett is, hi, welcome to the Star Wars fandom. It's nice to have you, because Boba Fett's pretty big around here, so if you don't know, you must be new.
Yeah.
But Boba Fett first showed up in Empire Strikes Back. He was working for Jabba the Hutt, trying to find Han Solo, and he tracked them to Cloud City, where he quickly saw the opportunity to make a little bit of extra cash and was like, I'm going to team up with Darth Vader and, make some more money. I believe we did see him slightly before that, but his main thing was around there. We did see him when he was trying to track down Luke, because he specifically
but that
told
was just
no
kind of-
disintegrations.
That was just kind of a glimpse, though.
Yeah, whereas his character arc and us knowing who he is as Boba Fett takes place around that time, which is why I consider that his first proper appearance.
Yeah.
Whereas, so with that, we get this thing of he's working for Jabba the Hutt, but he's also working for Darth Vader. We get the iconic, ominous, creepy-ass wall decoration of Harrison Ford in stone. Like this.
Yep.
Like, that will forever be seared into my mind. Forever, which now you've got that, so please don't clip that out of context.
Please do.
So, yeah. And then we see him again, where he's quickly dealt with by Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi. It's even done by accident. Luke just smacks the lightsaber into his jetpack and he falls into the Sarlacc pit. And canonically, up until Clone Wars came out and the prequels, that was all she wrote for Boba Fett. That was it.
So basically, in the original trilogy, Boba Fett's a bitch.
Basically. Now, some writers took a look at Boba's awesome Mandalorian armor, which at the time we didn't know were Mandalorians.
Yep.
And was like, I can do something with that. And we got the expanded universe. And that's where Boba really shines. Like, we see him with his illustrious career as a bounty hunter. He's badass. I can't go into like specific stories because there's so many in the expanded universe, but that is no longer canon. Thank you, Disney, or should I say, fuck
Yep.
you, Disney. um, but with that, the reason why I'm saying that is a lot of the stories in the expanded universe were beloved, and then Disney bought Star Wars and turned around and went, "Yeah, none of this is canon anymore." And
Well,
it,
unless they need it to be canon
unless they
for
need it to be
something to make
canon.
sense.
I mean, George Lucas was the same, to be fair to Disney. I'll play devil's advocate there. George Lucas was the same. He only took things from the expanded universe that he actually liked himself. But still, it's. They completely say, oh, yeah, that's just legends now. And it's like,
Yeah, Star
um,
Wars Legends.
George Lucas never read it off as not canon. He just said that he doesn't consider it canon.
Yeah,
Uh, okay. Thanks, Disney. You just made things way more complicated because now we got like God knows how many years worth of lore that's kind of irrelevant. But
yeah,
hey ho. And then, so then Disney took that, and I feel like the original idea might have been inspired by that run because they took Boba Fett and they were like, well, fans seem to like him even though he didn't really do much. Let's bring him back.
they only
Uh,
really liked him for his armor. Let's be for real.
Now, I did mention it earlier, and it is canonically Boba Fett, but in the terms of the Boba Fett that we're going to talk about in Mandalorian, and then the Boba Fett that we know from the others, while it's the canon, it is him. It's him younger, so it's not the Boba Fett we know. So
Yeah,
obviously, Boba Fett's origin starts off the same as the Clone Wars army. Jango Fett was hired by the Kaminoans, who believed they were working for the Jedi High Council, to be the genetic template for the High Army of the Republic, and
the
basically
clones.
created all the clones. But he turned around and he was like, "Hey, leave one a baby,
Mm,
cause I want a kid, but I don't want to do all that other stuff. Just,
yeah,
just give me, just give me the kid." um, which I suppose if you want a kid and you want it to be exactly like you, perfect way to do it.
yeah, that is true. 1-to-1 replica.
But so that's where we get Boba. Boba is a clone of Jango Fett. Now, Jango Fett is technically a Mandalorian foundling, I believe he actually is,
Mm,
as of the Mandalorian. Kind of like how Din is
mm,
in Mandalorian. Din isn't a true born Mandalorian; he's a foundling.
yeah.
Um, which is why he has the full on Mandalorian armor. But
I
because
actually, I actually didn't know that Django was a founder. I'm not gonna lie to you.
yeah, he's like an adoptee, so he was an
Ah,
adopted by a Mandalorian, raised by him, sort of thing. I believe that's the canon at the moment. Now I could be wrong. He could be a true Mandalorian. I might be misremembering, but I'm sure there was something about him having a foundling code in the armor, and that's how Din knows Boba's armor belongs to Boba in the Mandalorian episode where Din and um, Boba meet.
yeah.
So I'm just trying to remember that, but it's been a while since I watched that exact episode, and let's face it, that was a backdoor pilot for the Book of Boba Fett,
Yeah,
or as it's
good
been.
advertising.
It was good advertising. Too bad they didn't pay up on the promise, but
Yeah.
foreshadowing for later.
Really like.
So yes, with that, Boba Fett and Django were there at the first battle of the Clone Wars on Geonosis, where Mace Windu used his purple badass lightsaber to cut off Jin's head. Django's
Yeah,
head, sorry. Django's head.
Django's.
Cut off his head. And
I mean,
that
I've always thought that Django was a real goat. I'm not gonna lie.
well, he was trained to fight Jedi, which
Yeah.
is why he was basically handling Obi-Wan.
Mm.
He was a master bounty hunter, and he knew what was up. But we get to learn through the Book of Boba Fett and through the Clone Wars that Boba didn't really get the upbringing that I think Django would have wanted for him. He
Yeah.
falls in with one of Django's old allies, if you can call her that, and she
Mm.
basically uses him for her own ends. Uh, then subsequently abandons him when they're about to all get arrested by the Jedi, where he ends up in prison. And, we then see him again with the crew that we would later see him with in the original trilogy,
Yeah.
like the bounty hunter crew. And he works with the Sith assassin Asajj Ventress on that.
I mean that's an explanation of why there's 5 words in the entire trilogy.
Yeah.
Or 5 lines.
And he gets a bit of an arc there of
Yeah.
wanting revenge against Mace Windu and then realizing that revenge might not be all it's cracked up to be, sort of thing. But that's about all
Yeah.
he really gets, to be perfectly honest.
Mm.
But from that we get a bunch of other things where, you know, we finally get to the Book of Boba Fett, basically.
Yeah.
And Din has took over from the Hutts on Tatooine and is in charge of the Syndicate, and he's basically running Tatooine.
Yeah.
This is kind of where one of my problems first rears its head.
Which
And
is
they set Boba Fett up from the Clone Wars all the way into The Mandalorian as this badass, ruthless bounty hunter that will disintegrate people to collect his bounty and just bring back the ashes of that person and be like, there's your proof. And then they
yeah.
set him up as this guy that was willing to shoot Grogu to get back his armor.
Yeah.
And then he's a borderline pacifist. What? Where was this plot twist?
Obviously, we should have just read between the lines. Obviously.
Yeah, read between the lines on something that makes no sense. That, like, okay, I'll read between the lines on something that they made up out of their arse at the last second because they didn't know what to do.
Oh, I mean, I get what they were going for, but
I mean,
they
I
didn't
get
do
what
it
they were going for
correctly.
too. They
I feel like
definitely didn't do it correctly.
I feel like that's 90% of the Book of Boba Fett though. Like good ideas, but just terrible execution.
Definitely. Definitely. I agree with you 100% there. I mean, like I said, we get this pacifist 180 for some reason. And then we get this badass scene we see in his PTSD flashbacks, which, fine, give us that. That's kind of cool. I think I'd have PTSD flashbacks if I was nearly eaten by a Sarlacc.
Yeah.
Right? Of him in the Sarlacc stomach. I was really hyped. I was like, show us how he fought his way out the Sarlacc. Show us how he fought his way out the Sarlacc. Flamethrower climbs out the sand. What? What? I feel like I'm David Tennant's doctor, just like what?
The
Like
simplest solution is the best solution, obviously.
the cheapest solution is the best solution, obviously. We don't
Yeah.
have a Disney budget at all.
Oh,
Ugh. And then, the multicolored Joseph and his Technicolor Dreamcoat biker gang. Right. Okay. I don't think they're as bad as some people make out. My
yeah.
only problem with them is this. The vibe we get from Tatooine in the prequels and the original trilogy is a
Mm,
grungy, run down, like dirt ridden, rust ridden place.
yeah.
When did they get sandproof multicolored paint?
You just need to read in between the lines. It's a skill issue, I can't lie. We should
The,
just know.
this is supposed to take place like what 3, 4, 5 years after Return of the Jedi, which is supposed to
Yep.
be like the span of 2 years since A New Hope. So Luke's only been off Tatooine for 7 years. And apparently there is now a multicolored scooter gang on his home planet.
I mean, how did we know that they weren't there to begin with?
If they'd have gone with like the red of Luke's speeder that we
Yeah.
see Luke have with Obi-Wan, and like that type of faded multicolor,
Mm.
fine. But they went with neon.
Yeah.
Neon red, neon blue, neon yellow. What was it? The Power Rangers. I
Yeah,
was
all I
I,
need is Boba Fett's armor.
I was waiting for it's Mandalorian time, and then to just morph into Mandalorian armor. What was going on?
Oh,
Like it didn't gel with everything we'd been told about Tatooine before the Book of Boba Fett. Even the Mandalorian shows us this rundown, flaky desert planet.
hmm.
And then the Book of Boba Fett throws in Technicolor Dreamcoat. Scooter gang.
Yeah, it's
It's
it
out
feels
of place.
like it feels like they just wanted to capture your attention, but they did it in the wrong way.
It feels like they wanted to draw in kids and they thought colours was the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Hey mom, look, pretty colour. Kids aren't that stupid, Disney. Sorry.
Yeah. Uh,
Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. If you did, we can do some more video style podcast episodes with video attached to the audio. If not, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget
mm.
to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And I'll catch you in the next one, everybody. Stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like,
It's like
it was for toy sales. Let's be honest, it was for toy sale. They thought
it
they
was.
could sell the scooter gang as like kids' toys.
That's exactly what they're for, and I bet that it worked.
It
I'm not gonna
probably
lie.
did. I haven't looked up the figures, but it probably did. There's probably a bunch of people that bought those figures for their kids. There's probably a bunch of people that painted their Vespers those colors.
Just
Because
a one-to-one recreation.
let's be honest, as Star Wars fans, we be crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I think
I mean,
so.
you've seen them pictures of like people building the Millennium Falcon around their kids' bikes, so when they're riding along, it looks like they're just flying.
Yep. Or people that drop nearly $1,000 on a replica of a lightsaber. Uh,
That barely even works.
yeah, or you go to Galaxy's Edge at Disney and you
Yeah.
customize your own lightsaber for a couple $100. And it's like, yeah,
I
that's
mean, I'd
cool.
do that.
I'd do it too. I can't lie. Disney would get me with that too. I really want to go to
Yeah.
Galaxy's Edge and do that. Like, that is so cool. But we can't argue that that is Disney's main goal.
Yeah.
Like Grogu is one of the best characters to come out of Disney Star Wars, but he's just a cash grab.
He
He's
is.
cute,
He is.
adorable, and he brings in every Star Wars fan, from children, grown men, and especially the girls that just want the cute little baby Yoda. My own
I mean,
partner,
90% of the advertising for the Mandalorian was just Grogu.
yeah, I mean, my own partner wanted me to buy a Grogu, and I'm like, I really want to buy a Grogu, but
Mini Yoda.
it's so expensive. Oh, fine, we'll buy a Grogu. I mean, behind me, I have a comparethemarket.com meerkat dressed as BB-8.
I mean, that's understandable. Should be dressed as R2 though. The better droid. Let's be for real.
It was a gift when I went to uni from my mum.
Hmm.
But I agree, R2 is the better one. That's why my lamp is R2D2.
A lot of people say BB-8.
No, R2 all the way.
I ain't seen BB-8 do half of the stuff R2 did to help out the crew.
Hey, without R2D2, Padme and Anakin don't get together, which means we don't have Luke and Leia. Because if
I mean, if they didn't get together, Anakin wouldn't have fell to the dark side.
yeah, but to be fair, if they didn't get together, everything would have still happened anyway. Palpatine would have just found a new puppet.
Yeah, but Anakin would have been there to stop it.
Would he though? Because the only reason they managed to make it to Tatooine and even find Anakin as a Force sensitive is because R2 fixes the ship.
True.
So
That is true.
Without R2D2, the Star Wars universe is fucked.
I mean, R2 is just the absolute go.
Yeah,
I mean,
best
I
droid.
like C-3PO, but no.
You mean R2's husband?
Yeah.
Like, if we're talking anything, like R2D2 and C3PO are just like dating on some level, like robot
R2's
dating.
the thrill seeker, and C-3PO's the
The housewife.
yeah, the housewife that gets dragged along.
He's like, what type of mess have you got us into again, R2? And R2's like, I don't know. Like, come on. R2D2 is stood there watching Luke mac on his sister while knowing he's macking on his sister. Only C3PO's memory card was wiped.
Yeah, R2 probably just found it funny.
R2 is the biggest thing. R2 probably has data recordings of Anakin and Padme and Anakin turning into Darth Vader because he was there. So he could have been just like, oh yeah, by the way, Luke, Anakin, Vader, that's your dad. Spoiler alert.
But to be fair, I feel like R2 would know that stuff would have to go a certain way for the prophecy.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think R2 would have been spoken to by Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Definitely.
Seen as though, like, they spend some considerable time together on Han's ship. We don't see everything. But anyway, we're digressing.
Yeah, we...
Back to the Book of Boba Fett. There are some good points that I absolutely love. And I'm going to say this, most of them come from the end of the show.
Yeah.
where we get Phoenix Shan going all Assassin's Creed on the Syndicate's arse, where she's just in the shadows, fucking taking them out one by one. It's like, all right, I see you. That's awesome. The
Mm.
Cad Bane showing up. Say what you will about the design and the color of like the way that they did Cad Bane in live action.
Mm.
Cad Bane actually making it into live action was awesome.
It was.
As well as the Western standoff between him and Boba Fett. Like the Western vibes that we get through Book of Boba Fett was cool. Boba should have just been more of a anti-hero. I think they were trying to play him as an anti-hero, but they leaned too much on, oh, you tried to kill me. I'm not gonna kill you though.
Yeah, they didn't really do that right. I feel like they should have done more of a vengeance arc for Boba, because like
Do
you can be an anti-hero with still giving in to vengeance, if you get what I mean. I
you
mean,
know what might have
Daredevil.
worked? Um, in his for Boba,
What?
especially after we get the backstory with the Tusken Raiders, like after he's like give up being Boba Fett and he's living with the Tuskens, and then they
Mm.
just get all wiped out, and Boba kind of feels responsible.
Yeah.
A Frank Castle style Boba Fett.
Yes. That'd be amazing. I don't know why they didn't do that. Why?
Like, imagine the shit that would happen in the Star Wars universe if we got a Boba Fett that was basically the Punisher.
I, s-
Like,
I still hate the fact that we saw Boba's face.
I mean, we kind of did by seeing Django's face because they're clones, but
Yeah, but it's like Boba just doesn't take his helmet off, and then in the show they just go, "Nah, let's just change that."
I kind of liked it in The Mandalorian, but I would have kept it with him. I would have given him like the Din treatment in the
Mm.
Book of Boba Fett. I liked it in The Mandalorian because it was him on an arc to get his armor back. Like he lost his armor climbing out the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, I understand that, but also like I don't know, I preferred the mystery because like I liked not knowing what he looked like. He was literally the faceless villain,
Mm.
and
Yeah,
then
I mean, because even Darth Vader gets revealed by the end of the series. We know what Vader looks like under the mask.
yeah,
So Boba was literally the one we had left.
and they've just
Yeah. I mean,
but
they kind of pulled that bandage off, like I said, in Clone Wars, when they made him a clone rather than his own.
I mean yeah, but he doesn't look like Django. Like he looks different. He's a clone, but to me he doesn't look the same. He looks more rough, if you get what I
Ironic.
mean.
Ironic, because it's the same actor.
No, but genuinely, he does.
I know,
He
but
looks
it's
more
incredibly
worn.
ironic because it's the same actor that played Jango Fett that plays Boba in the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, but he's older and he looks different. Like, the
He
fact that he's
looks
bald as well.
he looks old.
Yeah,
That
he does. Yeah, because he's getting older, but
he's older than Django or when Django got his head chopped off.
yeah, but I don't know. I liked not knowing what
Yeah,
he turned into, kind of.
but I think the problems that we have with the Book of Boba Fett are indicative of the Disneyfying of things. Because I think the
Mm.
pacifist isms, the fact that he sleeps in a BAFTA tank for like 90% of some of the episodes, and the
Yeah,
biggest crime, the fact that two of the episodes aren't even the Book of Boba Fett, they're the Mandalorian season 2.5.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. They are.
like they should have been the opening episodes to Mandalorian season 3, not Mandalorian, not the Book of Boba. They should not have been squeezed into the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, but I feel like if it were in the Mandalorian, people would complain that this should have been in the Book of Boba Fett as well.
Well,
If you get me.
no, because you cut the parts that are connected to the Boba Fett stuff. You just
Mm.
keep Din. You can keep Din in Boba Fett's story. Just keep that focused on Tatooine. You keep the Grogu shit and the Din storyline of finding the armorer
Yeah,
all out of the Book of Boba Fett and leave
yeah,
that for the Mandalorian season 3.
and
That
then
was
that would have been fun as well. Like people piecing together the timeline
yeah, because
because it's
you can just have Din disappear like halfway through the episode, and then you're just like, where'd Din go? And then you pick up on the Mandalorian, and
mm,
oh, wait, what? And then if they really wanted to, because Grogu shows up in the last episode of the Book of Boba Fett with the Junker, and she's like, "Oh, Din, I've been looking for you. I've got something for you," and she got Grogu with her.
mm.
Everyone, they could have done that, and everyone would have been like, "Why is Grogu here? Didn't he leave with Luke at the end of last season?
Yeah,
Beginning of season 3 explains everything that happened and why
yeah,
Grogu was in the end of the Book of Boba Fett."
yeah. I feel like that would have been a really good decision, but it
They
was
just,
good advertisement and it drew more people into the Book of Boba Fett because I wanted that extra information about the Mandalorian. Because the Mandalorian is the more popular show. That's my
yeah,
opinion.
it is, it is, and to be honest, I have no problem with the Mandalorian. Like I said, we talk about other Disney shows, and
Mm,
we can get to that in a minute. But basically, I have no problem with the Mandalorian as a whole. Like I think that starts
mm,
off fantastic. I'm looking forward to us moving away from Din and Grogu now, because they're getting
mm.
their own movie to tie off their story. We're focusing more on Bo-Katan and the other Mandalorians next
See, I
season.
don't think it'll be the same. I feel like they should have done another show for the rest of them, and the Mandalorian should have ended with Din.
I think that because it's called the Mandalorian, I think they're just switching which Mandalorian they're focusing on.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, I was the same with like shows like The Walking Dead.
Mm.
It's like I understand that there isn't really a protagonist, so to speak, but at the same time,
But when at the same time, when it feels like there is, it feels a bit off when they get switched out.
but yeah, it just feels strange.
Yeah,
I,
no,
I
I get that. I 100% see that. Um, I mean, I'm looking forward to it, but I like Bo Katan because I've
mm,
watched, and some of us that have watched the Clone Wars will really love this change. Some of us, some of you that
I'm-
have only watched The Mandalorian and not really had time to connect with Bo Katan and other Mandalorians from that series will be like, why have we switched from Din?
I
Sorry.
mean, what I'm saying is I do like Bo-Katan and that, but I'm saying like instead of it being in the Mandalorian, they should just switch the series to.
Yeah, but I feel like with the Book of Boba Fett, I think it
Mm,
ties back to the fact that the Book of Boba Fett didn't work as to why there might be apprehension on Disney's part to do a spin-off show again.
yeah, and
And
also
yeah,
Andor,
yeah.
yeah, not working that as well.
I mean, because I know season 1 was split between those
Mm.
people that really loved it and was like, it's a slow burn. You just have to watch through the first couple of really slow episodes to get to the great stuff. And then there were people like myself and Rob, who also was on the podcast, where we were like, I'm bored.
It's
And
Diplomacy Simulator.
this is unnecessary. it feels like I'm watching the trade negotiations from Phantom Menace all over again.
I'm on the side of order, diplomacy.
I'm just like, I was like, Rogue One wasn't even that relevant.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me
Like,
started on Rogue One.
this is what I
What?
mean. This is where I was gonna go next, and I know some of you probably just clicked off when I just said Rogue One wasn't really that relevant because it's a beloved Star Wars movie. But at the same time, was there even any point in giving us a story about a bunch of rebels that die
No.
just to explain how the rebels got the Death Star plans in the first place, which we kind of already got that through exposition, and also to find out, oh, it's not that the Empire were super incompetent and had this really glaring weakness. It was specifically designed to be a really glaring weakness.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
See,
Okay. I kind of preferred it when the Empire was just so above themselves that they didn't give a shit that they had this really glaring weakness.
yeah, because that just fit the Empire more, in my opinion. There is one thing that I really liked from Rogue One, though. Showing how horrifying Vader is from the
Oh,
eyes of the troops.
that scene and the parallel we get in the Mandalorian from that scene with him and Luke at
Yeah,
the end of season 1 when he's slicing through the Death Troopers. I was
yeah.
like father, like son, eh?
See, I
Don't
don't
let.
think that the Luke scene was anywhere near as imposing, though.
See, I
But
do. I felt I felt the familial connection between that scene, but
I feel like that's just cause of obviously being like the nostalgia of that
yeah,
scene
yeah.
from Vader.
I also like people that I know that there's some discourse in the fandom around that scene because they're like, well, if Vader could do all that shit, why were he only like tapping Obi-Wan's lightsaber in a few scenes later in A New Hope? And the same with Luke in Empire. Guys, he was toying with both of them.
Yeah, and Luke, he wasn't trying to kill;
No, he's trying
he
to
was trying to
turn Luke.
persuade.
He's trying to turn Luke to the Emperor's side. And with Obi-Wan, he's toying with him, and Obi-Wan's toying back because he's trying to buy time for Luke to escape. And when
Um,
you can see the moment that Vader realizes he's been played. You can see it when he
mm,
turns and he looks at Luke when Luke screams, "No!" And Vader turns his like face at Luke and he's like, that doddery old kook played me.
you, you know one of my favorite Obi-Wan scenes. I can't remember what it's from, but it's where he goes into his new stance
Yeah,
against.
yeah.
Is it Maul? No.
Yeah, it's against Maul. He goes into his
Yeah,
old stance on Tatooine when Maul comes for Luke.
yeah. He goes into his old stance.
Well, he comes
Uh,
for Obi-Wan. He
what?
comes for Obi-Wan, but he learns
Yeah,
about Luke while he's there. Just
and
correcting myself.
he goes into his new stance and he's like, "Wait, no, uh, is no." He goes into his old stance and he's like, "Wait, no, that's a mistake that we made." And then he goats him in by going into Thingy's stance,
Qui-Gon's.
Qui-Gon's, and then he tries to do the same move and then bang! It's
Yeah,
so good.
slices him in half. And then you've got Darth Maul in the stand in Obi-Wan's arms being like, is he the one?
Mm.
Is it him? And Obi-Wan's like, he is our hope. And then obviously Maul dies. Maul dies in in the exact place where he first encountered Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and Anakin on
Yeah,
Tatooine. Full circle for Darth Maul.
which that was just beautifully done.
Yeah.
Like, I love Maul's story, and there's more coming out about him, right?
I hope so. I think there might be.
I
I
can't
want them
remember.
to expand on what happened with Maul following Solo.
Yeah.
I know Solo didn't do too well, and I
Mm.
think that that was slightly unfair. I
I feel like after Rogue One, Solo coming out was just like the hell's all the lightsabers.
yeah,
What's this? It's Star Wars.
yeah.
That's I feel like that's
The
mainly what it
story
was.
of Solo wasn't actually that bad. Um, it
I
was
didn't think that were bad at all. I liked it.
like Rogue One. It wasn't entirely necessary, but it wasn't unlike Rogue One. It wasn't something we'd been told before.
But also I do get the side of wanting Han Solo to be a mystery.
No,
Because all that he is
yeah, I get the wanting the mystery in an
his
enigma
past.
wrapped in a
Yeah. Because is just a
you know how that
cocky
saying
guy.
goes. But
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean.
I get wanting Han Solo to play that character. I just I don't think it was as net unnecessary as Rogue One, and people rave about
Yeah.
Rogue One, so I just feel like the hate for um
See, I know that this is gonna get a lot of hate in the comments, but you know that Rogue One is my least favorite Star Wars film.
yes, I do.
So, in my opinion, I think Solo's better
Yes.
because to me, it's explaining the past of a character that we already know and we already love, and it's not necessary, no, but it adds to the story. Rogue One is just kind of like, yeah, we already knew that these people got these plans and died.
Yeah.
Why do we need to see it?
Yeah. In the vein
And
of
then,
adding to the story and being really good, we have Obi-Wan. We have the Kenobi
yes,
show. Now, obviously, that was really good. And no one can argue that the storyline between Obi-Wan having to help Princess Leia escape the Inquisitors and, discovering the railroad, fighting Vader again, getting a glimpse of Anakin only for it to be fully consumed by Vader in front of his eyes. Like watching his eye go yellow.
mm,
And then getting himself dragged through flame. It was beautiful. It was amazing.
it was amazing seeing the old combat again instead of
Yeah.
the swell from the new films.
Yes. And all that stuff. It was great to see the fill-in scenes between Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor filling in some Clone Wars stuff with um Anakin and Obi-Wan. That I couldn't
Yeah, yeah.
remember. I couldn't remember Anakin's name. Then it had gone out of my head. I was like, I was gonna say
How
Space
how
Jesus. I don't know
how
why.
dare you?
My brain would only say Space Jesus. It was going Space Jesus, Space Jesus. I was like, that is not
An-
his name.
Anakin's best girl. How can you forget
But
him?
the main thing, I do have small nitpicks with Obi-Wan.
Really?
Yeah, it's small because the
Mm,
rest of it was fantastic. But Obi-Wan is great. The only problem is it makes some, I wouldn't say plot holes, but little threads that I'm like, confuse me a little bit. So
such as?
we see in Obi-Wan that Leia is force sensitive, and she uses the force
Mm,
sensitivity on Obi-Wan. We see Obi-Wan be like, hmm. Yet
mm,
he still trains Luke in the force when Owen is avidly against it, which, fair enough, that's fine. That's not my little nitpick. My little
mm,
nitpick is this, because he probably chose to train Luke over Leia because he saw too much of Anakin and Padme in Leia.
mm.
So he thought, nah, Leia's too easy to turn to the dark side. That's where I saw that going. Like, he's like, no, Luke's probably the better choice because Leia, she's too much like Anakin, and we already know where that went.
Yeah,
Which
which
they
makes
show that
sense.
with her being a bit cocky,
Yeah.
right? My little thread that niggles at me is when Obi-Wan Kenobi turns around to Yoda when he's a Force ghost and turns to Yoda and he says, "He is our last hope." And Yoda turns around and goes, "There is another." And Obi-Wan looks puzzled. The Obi-Wan Kenobi show shows that Obi-Wan Kenobi knows Leia is Force sensitive. Therefore, Obi-Wan Kenobi canonically should know that Leia is who Yoda is referring to.
Yeah. I mean, I get that, but also just just seeing that she's a little force sensitive doesn't mean that
It's
he'd think that she was and also seeing how cocky she is, like you said, he wouldn't think that she was a valid choice. So therefore, to me, it seems like it still makes sense because Obi-Wan's completely written her off, but then Yoda's like, "Hold on, fam."
see, I can see
That's
what you're
how I
saying.
understand
It's
it.
just like Star Wars does this a lot, and especially to Obi-Wan. I feel sorry for the character of Obi-Wan because they're constantly making him out to be either clueless or a liar. Like,
I mean,
Vader killed your father. No, he didn't. He is my dad.
I mean,
Oh, there is another. Leia is your sister. You knew this the whole time? Pretty much. Why didn't you say
pretty.
anything? Didn't come up. What? Why do you keep doing this, Star Wars, to my favorite character besides Darth
I
Maul?
mean, really?
Yeah.
I don't know that. That's a nice little new thing that I found out. Um,
I mean, I have Obi-Wan
I mean,
Kenobi's lightsaber in my house.
yeah, but that's because his lightsaber's peak.
True.
True.
My dog's
But
called Obi-Wan.
yeah, but that's just because Obi. You see, Obi's a better name than like Annie. But
The sun will come out, sorry.
okay. So what were I saying?
I don't know. What were you saying?
Yeah. See, but I mean, I understand it because Obi-Wan, he's. I feel like even in his old age, is more like he's not like Qui-Gon who that knows what he's doing at all times and is very calculated. To me, Obi seems like I know that I've got a mission, but I have no idea how I'm gonna do it. And it just seems like he's winging everything, in my opinion.
It probably is, and that is probably one of the best parts about it. But it's just funny that in the original trilogy, both Jedi Masters, Yoda and Obi-Wan, just like trolling Luke. Like,
I mean,
yeah,
wouldn't you? We how whiny he is.
Darth
Luke got
Vader, Darth Vader betrayed and murdered your father. Psych, he is your father. Yoda? Yes, I know Yoda.
see that bit though. That bit, the he is your father. I kind of understand why they didn't tell him, because if they said Vader is your father, then Luke would have been apprehensive, and he would have tried to persuade him to turn
Oh, I
and
mean,
possibly
no,
fall for
I get
Vader.
it. I understand why Obi-Wan did it. It's
Hmm.
just the way that they go about it in the thing doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. Like it should have been that. Well, I didn't tell you because until you found out the Empire was ruthless badasses that burnt your aunt and uncle to a fried chicken.
Yeah.
You were gonna join them, mate.
Yeah.
So if I turned around and told you your dad's kind of second in command to the Emperor, what were you gonna do? You're gonna be like,
Yeah.
Oh, so technically I'm Crown Prince of the Empire.
Yeah.
Awesome. Like,
And it'd be like, I can change the empire, bring order to it, and then he would have tried, and then Palpatine would be like, "Your sister will die." Anakin type beat.
yeah, and he would have tricked him. He would have tricked him, and
Yeah,
he'd have just said, "Look, the only way to bring balance to the galaxy is our way. If you try it
yeah.
any other way, the same thing that happened to your father will happen to you. Your father tried it your way, and look at what happened to him."
I have tried it many a way. I was the leader of the Senate,
Yeah,
and none of them obeyed. None of them listened. Blah blah blah.
well, he's a master manipulator. So at the
Yeah,
end of the day, it had to be done the way it had to be done. I'm just saying that the writing makes Obi-Wan Kenobi look like an idiot.
yeah, it does. I have to agree on that.
And it's because none of it was planned.
Yeah, which
Which, it, I'm sorry, if your argument for why the sequels are bad is because they didn't plan any of it, they just winged it. Sorry, that's not a valid argument as to why some of the sequels don't hold up. Because they didn't plan any of this shit. And the original trilogy is still fantastic.
yeah, true. See,
So,
but also I like the prequels and they were really planned out. I prefer
mm,
the prequels.
the issue is that instead of following like the basic beats that were laid out, one of the
Mm.
directors for the sequels decided, I'm just going to do my own thing and went and did The Last Jedi. So then
Yeah,
they
I'm gonna
tried.
do my own thing and make Rey exact same as Anakin and Luke, like basically the exact same job from the exact same place, from the
I
exact
mean,
same story.
that was the original guy, and
Oh yeah.
then the second dude went and tried to correct that, in my opinion. And
Mm.
then the original guy came back because nobody liked the correction and was like, well, I guess I've got to correct this correction, so I'm going to bring back Palpatine. And how am I going to explain why Palpatine came back? Somehow Palpatine returned. Great exposition, JJ.
the the fact that they could have just see, I preferred Ray's parents being no one. Like it
I,
should
I
Ray's
agree with
parents
you
should have been
there.
no one. She
She sh-
shouldn't have been from a place exactly like Tatooine. She should have.
I mean, we discussed this at length the other day where we said it'd have been cooler if she'd have come from a planet of like refugee Jedi, kind of like the planet that
Yeah,
Cal finds in Fallen Order
yeah.
at the end of that. Spoiler for that game if you haven't played it, but who am I kidding? If you clicked on this video, you probably played that game. Um, so,
Right.
um, kind of like that. And that's how you explain why she's already so freaking good with the Force because
Yeah,
she's
and then you
been
could.
trained in it from birth. Not in a
Yeah.
culty Jedi sort of way, like everyone on that planet can just use it.
Mm.
So it's
And
second nature to all of them.
and if you wanted Ray to be a no one, it could be somewhat like Ray has a below average ability in the Force to begin with, and then in the Force Awakens.
Her power finally awakens.
Yeah.
And that's what draws, Kylo to her. And we can actually bring some credence to what girl?
Yeah,
Because that line makes no sense. Why is
and
he
it could
so stressed about a girl when they don't pay that off? Like, they could have paid that
what
off
girl?
by,
Ray.
yeah, they could have paid that off by having her either be related through being a sister or being Luke's kid, or they could have paid that off by the Skywalkers knowing the Palpatines had a kid, if that's the
Yeah,
route they wanted to go.
well, they just didn't pay it off
You
whatsoever,
know,
which
I could see Luke actually helping Rey's parents hide Rey because of who her grandfather was. So
see,
if so,
and
Kylo being at the Jedi Academy and also being Luke's nephew would be privy to the fact that there's a Palpatine out there. So when he goes, "What girl?" it's because he freaks out because he's just realized, shit, we're on the planet where Uncle Luke hid Rey.
yeah, he'd, Emperor Palpatine's kid or grandkid,
Yeah,
whatever.
whatever. But like, they never pay that line off. It makes no sense. Why does he say it? I mean, we kind of
Probably
straight up.
like, ooh, girl, I haven't had a date in years.
I wonder why, you whiny bitch Darth Vader knockoff.
Oh, I want to be Vader so bad, but my main power is gonna be Force Freeze.
I know. If the Force was like the Charmed ones, Anakin has Phoebe's premonitions,
Hmm.
which Palpatine manipulates into thinking his wife's gonna die. Vader has the telekinesis shit, and Kylo just gets the freeze time.
Which
Like,
would be super OP if it was like Callan Jedi Survivor, but instead they just went, yeah, no, can freeze one person.
yeah, and he uses it on a blaster bolt for a really, really long amount of time, which shows off how strong he is, and he's really cool. But he does it once.
I also find it so funny that someone who has been mastering a lightsaber for years gets beat by a scrapper that somebody just picked one up.
By an untrained girl, which they had to come out in other material to say, oh, she learned how to use a lightsaber by reading his mind through the dyad. And
Just
it's like,
the mindset fight style so different.
I
Kylo's all about, I'm gonna attack you, I'm gonna find your weak spot, I'm gonna put constant pressure on, find your weak spot, and then utilize it, and then Rey's just, oh yeah, I'm gonna block, 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 and then attack when I'm about to die.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And we kind of got off the original point of the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, but it's fine. It's good.
But circling back to that before we call this episode to a close, I think the Book of Boba Fett could have worked. This is how I personally would have done it, and feel free to jump in with your suggestions as well.
Hmm.
I would have picked up where we left off in The Mandalorian with Boba now the Don of Tatooine. He's took over from Jabba the Hutt and Jabba's second in command, because obviously Jabba's second in command was the one actually in command. I always forget his name, so
I can't remember it.
put it in the comments if you know it. But you know, the guy that looks like he's got a giant dick around his neck. Um,
Yeah.
that one.
Which does he breathe through it? Like, what's the actual
I don't
point
know.
of it?
I don't know. He looks like he's got two testicles on his forehead and a giant dick around his neck. I don't know what it is.
I swear down George Lucas said that he just made up random.
Yeah. So hit that guy, and now he's in charge. Instead of having him walk around town and be like, "Hey, I'm in charge now. You owe me money."
Hmm.
I'd have them come to him, because that's more of a fucking power play,
Yeah.
and have them on the ground. The opening scene is him having them all come to him, them all on the ground, them all like thingy, and he's got his gun at his side, and he's like, right,
And I wouldn't show Boba straight away either. I do like shots like zooming in on the people's faces and it's slowly like
yeah,
different angles and it shows like his gun and then like his side and then like the final shot ends with his helmet.
yeah, and then we cut to the opening card.
Yeah.
And then we get to the actual scene, and the actual scene is him just being like, I'm in charge now. You pay your tithes to me, and I don't drop you in that.
Mm.
And you can even have someone, maybe one of the pig guards that used to work for Jabba, one of the green pig guards, be like, the
Mm.
Rancor's dead. And Boba just dropped them through a trapdoor into the Rancor
Yeah.
pit with a brand new Rancor in there. We
Yes.
don't need to see him get the Rancor like we do in the show. Just have the Rancor already in the pit. And then have the guy screaming and wailing in everybody's face. We do the pan over the faces again, and this time it's fear. And they're
Mm.
like, oh,
This dude does not play.
this dude does not
Basically.
play. Yeah. Then the scene of him walking around town isn't him walking around town to people that are already in his thing. You have him walking into the other crime bosses on Tatooine, the Tatooine criminal underworld. He walks into their rooms, guns ablaze, points it straight at their leaders, and he's like, "You work for me."
I think that'd be a really Boba Fett type of move if he walked in and he just shot like two of them dead straight off the
Yeah,
bat, and then aims it at like leaves one alive,
yeah,
and then it is like, you're now my second in command.
yeah. And that's how we
Sort
get
this out.
that's how we get the Wookiee that
Yeah.
works for him, right? And stuff like that. And we get things like that, a montage of that. And that is the first episode, him gathering his crew. So we get
Hmm.
the Wookiee, the bike, the scooter gang, except I wouldn't have them be a scooter gang. They're a biker gang. Not
Yeah.
scooters, not multicolored scooters. They've got speeders. And if you want
Yeah.
multicolors, they've got multicolored jackets. Because that makes more sense than than the thing. They've got jackets that are like multicolors.
Or they could be, instead of the jackets being multicolored, they could be armored, like little
Um,
bits of armor on them,
there
and
we go.
then the
Yeah,
armor pieces.
yeah, and the armor pieces kind of like how Boba's is sprayed green. You've got like armor, and you can do it. Could even be like sprayed stormtrooper armor
Yeah.
to show
Oh
that
my god. Yeah.
when Tatooine, when the Empire fell, Tatooine killed the stormtroopers on Tatooine, and these kids just stole the armor and sprayed it.
Yeah. And you could have like
And I'd give it
bits
that
cut out because it didn't fit properly.
and I'd give it that grungy look, not that like fresh shine, but it still
Yeah.
looks cool.
I
And
mean, if they want kind of a shine, they could use like, like the radioactive colors on Jedi Survivor.
yeah,
So that it's bright, but it's damaged almost.
yeah, and they've got blaster bolt marks on them and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and you've got them, and they're on like speeder bikes and speeder cars, and they look like greasers from like Grease,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and they work for Boba, but they're more like the eyes and ears within the youth. And then you've got Finnick and the actual enforcers.
Yeah.
Uh, and then the Syndicate is the main villain.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd cut the mayor entirely. The mayor isn't there. There's
Yeah.
no point having him. Just have the Syndicate. They bring in Cad Bane because they're like, oh, Boba's only as good as he is because he's a bounty hunter. Well, we know a bounty hunter that's got a better reputation than Boba Fett, and they bring
Mm-hmm.
in Cad Bane. And the whole thing is the Spice Runners against Boba Fett. We get Boba Fett's backstory with the Spice Runners. We still get
Yeah.
him in the BAFTA tank, but we
Mm.
see it once when he's attacked
Yeah.
in the BAFTA tank.
Mm.
And you could even have the Hutt twins, show up and be responsible for that attack.
That'd
Um,
be a good idea.
I mean, they were responsible in the original show. They sent the Black Wookiee to do it.
Oh yeah.
But they run off immediately. Instead of
Mm.
having them run off immediately, have them side with the Syndicate because their plan failed.
Yes.
And they are Jabba's kin. They want half of Tatooine. and Jabba's palace.
And maybe Boba uses them to get to the rest of the syndicate.
Yeah, like
That'd be good.
one of the twins betrays the other twin,
Hmm.
and one's with the syndicate and one's with Boba.
Yeah, and there could be like dual agents, basically. Like the one that's with Boba, he could like set kind of undercover, and maybe the audience doesn't know.
Yeah, and that sort of stuff. And then we get all that stuff. We have Din show up. We get Din doing his thing and getting people on Boba's side and saying, like, Boba isn't evil. He's just not good.
Misunderstood.
But he's just not good, and he's probably the better out of the two. Who would you want
Hmm.
running the criminal underworld? A guy that's anti-drug, or the guy that's like just gonna run spice through this place?
Yeah,
Because I kind of like the idea that Boba's a criminal, but doesn't like drugs.
yeah, which is understood.
Yeah, I like that idea of his kingpin being anti-drug
Because I mean, it makes sense with him being a clone, because of how many chemicals they must have used
and stuff like
to
that,
replicate him.
and things like that. Yeah, so
Yeah,
he's the anti-spice. He keeps spice off Tatooine, which means the regular citizens side up with him. Din's with him. We get that scene that I absolutely love from the real thing, where you got Din and Boba back to back, guns are blazing.
yeah,
The other crime bosses that Boba's like been scaring have joined forces with the Syndicate to take down Boba. But Boba's got his crew and the team of people from Tatooine with him. They fight him off. We don't have the big Rancor thing flying through the city. That's a bit kaiju-y.
overboard.
And then we get the final thing, the face-off we've been waiting for throughout all the episodes. Cad Bane steps up and says, "Let's settle this like men." Shootout. First one,
Yeah.
first one down loses, and I
Mm.
wouldn't have Boba lose the draw. I know what they were doing. They wanted him to
See,
use the Tusken Raider weapon as a way
but the
to
thing
win.
is, Cad is the better shot.
I know
So
he's a better shot. I just wouldn't have him lose. I would have maybe have them draw. They both go down, and then you can have Cad get back up quicker, go over to Boba, and Boba uses the Tusken Raiders weapon to take down Cad Bane.
see. I feel like we're gonna disagree on this because I feel like Cad should have straight out won. Because when you look at the law on both of them,
But if Cad
it's just
wins,
better.
then Boba just there's no satisfying ending to the show for Boba. He just
But
dies.
that's poetic in my opinion. There doesn't need to be a satisfying ending. I don't know. I don't.
It's either
I feel like
he,
if Boba survived, it should be
it's
barely.
either it's either he thing is,
Hmm.
or we have because we're also using this to advertise the Mandalorian and get Mandalorian fans to watch Book of Boba Fett. We have Din throw Boba the dark saber, and Boba uses the dark saber to block the bolt.
You could do.
Like that way, Cad's credibility as the bestest shot isn't ruined. But
See,
you
I'd
get
also like it if Boba cheated.
by grabbing the dark saber, that is technically cheating. It's a
I mean,
shootout.
like, if they're getting ready to draw, and then Boba does something like, for example, Breaking Bad spoiler.
Hmm.
You know what El Camino spoiler? Do you know in El Camino
Yeah.
where Jesse has his hand in his pocket with one gun, and
Yeah.
then he puts his hand on the other and he shoots with the other gun. I feel like this version of Boba wouldn't be above that. Like that sort of
So we
tactic.
have Boba with the gun in his hand, but his rocket launcher on his back,
Yeah,
and he fires the rocket. So Cad does manage to shoot, but he has to dodge out the way of the fucking oncoming rocket, which means the shot just grazes Boba, which gives him a chance to get out the Tusken Raider stick, paying off that arc to whack
yeah,
Cad round the head, knocking him out. Because the fact that they have him stab Cad, I don't like. I kind of, why bring him into live action to seemingly kill him off straight away?
yeah.
Like, he should smack him
Be-
round the head, knock him out, and then we got Boba Fett is the dawn
Because
of thingy, and the mayor can be someone that we've already met on
and then
Tatooine.
that also like that would also cause both fear but also disdain for Boba.
Mm.
Cause yeah, he won against bloody Cad, the best person. Well, not the best, but you know what I mean.
One of the
Like,
best shots in the world, but he did it in a
yeah,
way that, like, Han Solo would be proud because he shot first.
yeah. So it's kind of like a uneasy feeling. I feel like that a bit,
Well, you could
cause
even have Din point it out. Because we
yeah,
want
cause
Din.
I
We want Din to be like the hero. Like the Mandalorian is supposed to be the hero story. This is supposed to be like the anti-hero story. So you could even have Din point it out afterwards. Like that was a dirty trick.
yeah, and then it could be like the clash of ideals.
And then Boba can be like, whatever it takes to win, kid.
Yeah,
Like that sort of thing.
because to me, I don't know whether it's just my headcanon, but I feel like Boba wouldn't win that fight like without cheating, and it wouldn't. If he did win, it'd be close.
Well, technically, he only won because he hooked Cad's leg with the Tuscan stick.
Yeah, I know.
Cad did beat him in the gunfight.
And I know, but I feel like why wouldn't Cad ensure he's dead? Kind of.
Because they say that the Beskar is what blocked the bolt, aren't they? Because he's wearing Beskar armor.
True. I don't know.
So,
I feel like I have unrealistic expectations of Cad though, because it's Cad. I mean,
I mean, I agree with you. I think Boba would have to pull out some pretty tricky shit to pull it off. But I think it is possible.
yeah.
But yeah, that would be our rewrite of Boba Fett, and that's our grievances with that and other Star Wars projects. I need to, this Star Wars Day, go ahead and watch Skeleton Crew and a bunch of others. But yeah, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. If you did, we can do some more video style podcast episodes with video attached to the audio. If not, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget
Mm.
to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And I'll catch you in the next one, everybody. Stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.